Well, good morning. Thanks for joining us this morning for a conversation about visionary leadership. My name is Tom Dammrich. I'm the former president of NMMA, and I'll be moderating this conversation with three really great industry leaders. So we have here this morning Steve Heese, who with Steve and Julius purchased Chris-Craft and is the president of Chris-Craft. Robert Oswell, who's the founder, chairman, and CEO of Roswell Marine, and John Giglio, who is the former owner of Freedom Boat Club. So, Steve, you bought an iconic brand with Steve and Julius and had to rebuild it. Robert, you founded a company and have seen it grow through many stages over 26 years. And John, you bought the company you worked for, grew it significantly, and sold it to Brunswick. So each of you have a unique story about your company and the role you've played with the company. And to provide some context for our conversation this morning, I'd like to ask each of you to kind of tell your story to the group. So Steve, you want to start?
Sure. There was a preparation phase to my career, I would say. I studied accounting undergrad, went to work at Price Waterhouse, spent 4 years installing enterprise resource planning software, mainly SAP. I went to Harvard Business School and graduated. And after business school, I was quite restless. I was 28 years old. I accepted a job in investment banking. And before I went to work, a friend of mine said, "Hey, I'm trying to turn this company around. Would you help me for the summer?" I did. I wound up staying there, turning it around with him. It was a manufacturing company, which I loved. And that really put me on the path I was on of buying broken companies, turning them around and selling them. And that sounds kind of highfalutin, but I started small. I had no money. The first company that I bought with the company's money and an overnight loan. I needed to buy a dollar's worth of assets for 50 cents or less. And was able to do that a series of times till I could get to bigger companies. And Stephen and I owned Riva. It's a yacht builder in Italy that we owned for 2 years. Sold that to the Ferretti Group. Wound up, when Chris-Craft went bankrupt as part of the outboard marine bankruptcy. Bankruptcies are great because everyone runs away and thinks there's a lot of risk, and it's the exact opposite. You can buy a dollar worth of assets very inexpensively. And bought Chris-Craft out of that bankruptcy. Classic case of buying a dollar's worth of assets for 25 cents on the dollar. We were practically the only bidder for it. Did the same thing with Indian Motorcycle Company in 2004. Bought the trademarks for Indian Motorcycle at a bankruptcy auction. Read about it in the Wall Street Journal, had to send a deposit to the court in order to bid. We got there, we were the only bidder, literally the only people in the auction room. And we walked out with the trademarks for the price of our good faith money.
Wow.
Owned Indian until 2011. Sold that to Polaris Industries, who own it now. Sold Chris-Craft in 2018. Never thought in the world I'd ever work for a big public company. Expected to stay for 2 years with the goal of implanting my leadership team inside Winnebago. That was 6 years ago. I still work for Winnebago Industries. They're great people. I'm having a great time. I'm doing my same job. A different stage of my career, totally. I play a different role than I played for the rest of it, but that's the story. One thing leads to another.
Robert?
Story, Steve. Is mic on?
Yeah.
Well, I was just born in the marine industry, Steve. I just started here and have never left. 26 years. But leading into starting Roswell Marine, I started my first company, I think when I was about 17 years old. By the time I was 20 and found the marine industry, I had 3 companies. I was a 4th-year electrician. But I started the companies because I would lay awake at night at 18 designing products. So I have a vision for products, and I can see products in 3D and exploded views in my head all day long, which is a bit of a curse. And the first company was started really to try and fund that, to patent that and bring those products to life. So by 20 years old, I'd bought my first boat, had a house, and was, moving along in my career, and fell in love with being on the water. And the first thing that happened there 26 years ago is you need an extended pylon for water sports. And I started designing and building my own. I just fell in love with being on the water and in the boat and the lifestyle, and everybody in the marine industry that I met was just phenomenal. So I said, I'm just going to build some products in this marine industry. And fortunately, people wanted those products. And to fast forward, I designed different technologies along the way. The first universal tower to fit all boats 22 years ago. Swiveling board racks, which are now standard on the towboats. Technologies for folding any weightless system inside of a tower, camming systems, integrated speakers, TVs. Now, most recently, telescopic towers. Any telescopic tower on a boat, we patented at Roswell and are proud of that technology, along with offshore stuff and onshore stuff. So a lot of patents, and that's really my passion, designing and building great products along the way. When I think about the journey over 26 years, you can't even imagine. It went from starting in a garage and fabricating some products, going door to door to dealers in a truck and living in a tent, to scaling and taking business loans out. I didn't start with any capital whatsoever, a lot of loans and high interest debt for a 20-year-old, 21-year-old. And as I kept investing in the business and building it up, it was just an incredible adventure, from being an operator inside the business and scaling it from a team of 3 or 5 to 10 to 20, 20 to 50, and 50 to 100, and 150, and then up from there. It's just been an amazing journey. So today, there's a lot of stories along there, surviving the offshoring 20 years ago, where companies were pushing products offshore, and we were domestically manufacturing. And then the global financial crisis, 08-09, and where we lost 60% of our business overnight. Some people might be able to identify with that in some way recently. But, and then the onshoring movement over the last 10 years, which has been incredible. So we're in Florida here, head office, and about 150,000 square feet here in Florida, 140 people, offices in Canada, Australia for Australia, New Zealand, OEM business, and Holland for the European market. So, that's a little bit of the background and story, but an incredible journey along the way.
Sure. The stories, always find these stories very interesting, and I hope you do too. Jen.
My name's John Giglio, as I mentioned. I don't have a pedigree in college like some of my board panel members here, but I grew up in Rhode Island, and my only goal was to get out of the state of Rhode Island. So I went to Florida Southern College in Lakeland. So I ended up down here in '92 and never left. But I was an HR major, had realized very quickly that I didn't love people or managing people. So that turned out to be an interesting wake-up call. But I had a coworker that her parents owned an auto repair facility down on the west coast of Florida in Venice. So that's what got me down here. Similar to as auto body paint and repair, similar to Earl Scheib kind of production. So I worked for them for 7 years, got a little bit of an ownership percentage, but as anybody in the room who's worked for a family-owned business, it's the kids were growing up, there were other people entering the business, so it was time for me to exit. And applied for a whole bunch of positions and got the operations role at Freedom Boat Club. And this was 2004, so back then the company had just sold. Started in 1989, but a series of different owners up until that point. And just saw a huge opportunity. I remember I went home and told my wife that I took this job, and she said, "How much are you making?" I said, "About $50,000 less than I made at the other job." So that made her really, really happy. So we, spent the next, 7 years working. I spent the next 7 years working in the company. Started in operations, then went on to the sales side, kind of reinvented the pricing model during that time. And I was explaining this earlier, but back in the early club days, you would buy a term membership. So you would spend $15,000 to buy a 5-year membership. which is interesting when you're looking at buying a $15,000 boat or a membership in a concept where you don't actually own anything. So back in 2009, we changed the pricing model to a much more recurring revenue model. Lower entry fee, higher monthly payments, and we really turned the company into a sustainable business at that point. So shortly after that, about 2 months, the ownership group said, "Hey, we're selling the company." And we were like, "Wait a minute, we just fixed the company. What do you mean you're selling it?" And so my partner and I, who was the president of the company at the time, decided that we were going to make him an offer. And unfortunately, they didn't accept it because I had no money. My partner did, but he was significantly older and didn't want to dump his life savings into it. So we spent the next year going through a whole M&A process. I call that my MBA and M&A, where they put the company up for sale. They hired an investment bank out of Chicago. We ran all kinds of presentations. We had 12 bids on the company, and then all of a sudden, over that year, they kept falling by the wayside. And so at the end of that year, my partner and I were like, "Hey, we're still here." And fortunately, we got it at a much deeper discount than we intended because we learned everything about the business from a financial model over that year. So that was 2011. We were able to purchase the business. And then at the time, we had about 30 locations, 30 Freedom Boat Club locations. We immediately got rid of about 5, addition by subtraction, and we started growing the business from there. My partner retired in 2012, and I took over as the sole owner. When through the years, we grew. We got into marina acquisitions. We got into boat sales. We got into repair facilities. So kind of created our own little ecosystem of the marine industry, but everything was centered around the club and the club concept and the membership. So had an opportunity over those years as we continued to grow and Freedom became more successful. I would get phone calls, probably 3 phone calls a week, people interested in purchasing the company. And until Brunswick came knocking, it honestly wasn't even really a thought. I had entertained a couple of offers, but it just, there's still a lot of unfinished business. And then when David Folks took over as the CEO back in 2019, he really wanted Freedom Boat Club. He wanted it for all of the reasons that they've made it such a success today. But I sold it to them in 2019, stayed on for about 1.5 years. But realized that I'm not a big company guy. Too many planning phone calls for the meeting. So I ended up parting ways with them, staying relevant in the industry, I guess, a little bit, relevant enough to get the phone call to come speak on this panel, which was quite shocking. But also, I've invested in another boat sharing company called Anchor. We've still got a marina portfolio that we manage, and staying kind of on the fringes of the industry. And it's been a great ride. It's been a lot of fun. Love being back here, seeing all these familiar faces. So that's my story.
Thank you. So leadership and culture seem to me to be very interconnected in an organization, especially at the CEO level. So there's no one culture that's a silver bullet that every organization ought to adopt. So we'll start with you, Robert. Can you describe the culture of your company and how it's evolved over time and how it contributes to your success?
Oh, I knew you'd ask that, Tom. No, I didn't. Okay, so I guess when I sit back and I think about culture at Roswell and all the different transitions over the years, I think I know now what I maybe didn't know back in the early days is that your culture in the company really ties back into your core values. And for me, when I look at it, I think that the core values are the DNA that weave all the people together in your organization and tie them back to your culture. So if I look top down from a leadership point of view, I think we all as leaders have these fundamental things that we're doing, whether we know it or not. You're driving your values into your team every day. And at Roswell, those things are, we innovate relentlessly. New product development is a passion. We want to build products that make people's lives better. We have all these things. Willingness to change is important to us. But, when you're a small business, if I think back at the stages, those early stages, you're doing it. When you have a team of 10 or 15 people, you can touch every piece of the business and every piece of the team every day. And the biggest thing I learned is we scaled up to 30, 40, 50 people, and you have managers who usually also have strong personalities, otherwise you don't promote them into management. But they then start putting their own fingerprint on it. If you don't have those core values identified and written down and really anchor that in the organization, I seen this transition where we felt friction between departments, communication issues. What's great people, rock stars, but maybe you sense that in an organization as it's scaling. And you really, as I deep dive into it, I found out that maybe this individual is a rock star, but they're not actually holding to my core values. And the change over the years was saying, okay, writing those core values down and then making sure that everybody's onboarded from the leadership to the team members, but especially from your leaders down, really diffused this conflict or potential lack of synergy, and aligns your entire organization to go forward. Because as you scale as a leader, you can't touch every piece. You get to 50, 60, 100 people, 150 people. Now you're relying on great leaders below you to be better than you in all these areas. And so I think back to culture, I think, to sum it up, like establishing those core values and driving them throughout the organization is really what drives the culture in the company. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
if I say anything of any value there, but.
Yeah. Steve, how would you describe the culture at Chris-Craft?
If you look at any successful business, I think they might use different words, but those core values are paramount. And, it's the job of the leaders in the business, when they sense the slightest sniff of something being done or said or treated in a way that's not lined up with those core values of transparency, integrity, care for people, people first, you've got to hold people accountable. And as the company grows, that gets harder. But the nice thing is there's tools you can use now to find out what's going on. We have 500 employees. What's going on in a given department where you have a supervisor and 15 employees? There's engagement surveys that we're very passionate about, and it gives the employees a chance just to answer 12 questions, and those 12 questions tell us what's going on in that department. And if we've got a hot spot, we know about it quickly and we can deal with it. And it's, it comes down to education more than anything else. Yeah. Because as the company grows, you've got I have the ability to influence 15 people. I still do, but they're the 15 people at the top of the organization. And as you go down deep, you need to make sure those core values are imbibed in every leader in the company. And that comes first. And if you do that well, you'll wind up with building great products. You'll wind up keeping customers happy. You'll wind up being passionate about service. And the other building blocks of the business all flow from those core values.
Jen, what did you do intentionally at Freedom Boat Club to influence or impact the culture you want?
So the big thing that we did was we created a member-centric business. Every decision that we made was for the betterment of our membership. We wanted to make sure that the members are happy. You have happy members. They continue making their monthly payments. You're providing them the service, not only providing them the service that you told them what you were going to provide, but provide them better service. And they're going to continue to engage with your business. We aggressively trained our employees to do that, and to ensure that the employees understanding they're the front line, they're the face of the organization, and just making sure that we empowered them to do their job, and we gave them the tools to do their job. That was extremely important, because a lot of companies say, we're going to be the best, but if you don't put your resources behind that to really be the best, then you're going to fall short. And our employees appreciated that because historically, one of the benefits of my role as the operations manager, I was able to, I knew the pitfalls of the company. I couldn't change them because I wasn't the owner. So when I stepped into that ownership role and truly had the power to be able to make those changes, it was really, it started with the employees and propelled them forward. And then the final thing that I really did throughout the course of my time there with Freedom was I had a 100% open door policy. So if a member had an issue, give them my phone number, tell them to come by my office. If an employee had a problem, come into my office. Like if I actually would not let people inside the office close their door so that I could walk in on them too. I wanted to know everything that was going on. I didn't want there to be any secrets. And that really, to this day, I still have employees come up to me, man, that was like, we didn't understand it at the time. We thought you were nuts giving us giving everybody your cell phone number. But very few people used it, but they knew they could. And that was the important part. That was the message, so.
Very good. It's interesting, as you talk, you remind me of a story. When I had my first CEO position, I was young, and I was maybe a year into it, and I had a meeting with my senior staff, senior team, and we were talking about the organization, and they kept saying, Tom, the staff don't understand what you want. The staff don't understand the mission. The staff don't understand this. And I was perplexed because I thought I was communicating relentlessly on all of these things. And finally, it dawned on me, and I turned the question around to them, and I said, well, do you understand all these things? Oh, yeah, we understand it perfectly. I said, okay, now I know where my problem is. That they weren't communicating with their people what I had been communicating with them. So it's driving things through a leadership team can be challenging. So, so turning more directly to leadership, Steve, how would you describe your approach to leadership, your style?
That's a really good question. When you buy a broken company, it lost a lot of money. And when you're investing your own money, you know that you can't do that forever, and you need to make whatever changes are necessary to allow it to achieve profitability. So at the beginning, very hands-on, very, I won't say ruthless, but very quick and get through whatever experiments you need to make sure you're on the road to profitability. After that, it transitions to empowering the people that work for you in a transparent way. As John said, culture of anybody can say anything to me. If you've got an opinion, I worry more about what people aren't telling me than what they are telling me. And so you need to have a culture where everybody can share, because there's no monopoly on wisdom. People that are sitting up here, none of us have a monopoly on wisdom. The wisdom is in the people that are on your team and the people that are doing their jobs. And if you have problems, the solutions to them are very close to them, not to me. So having a very candid, open door, let's talk about it. Always be worried about what people aren't telling you, because they've got the solution to the problem.
Robert, how would you describe your approach to leadership?
My approach?
Yeah.
I can tell you what I'd like to be. My people might say otherwise. Okay. I think I'd like to be, or my approach, I want to be strong for my team, but casual, modern leader who empowers great people around me. I want to give them a lot of rope and let them fail, not be afraid to speak up, but make some mistakes. Then be there to guide them. I want to make sure I've got guardrails up so we don't make too big of mistakes. But I feel like they need that runway to learn, because I learned all my best lessons by falling down and getting back up over the 26 years. And then I think I need to be assertive when I need to be, But that's probably the style that...
So what would your team say?
Well, they're not here to tell you, so we'll never know. But I mean, yeah, go ask them.
Yeah.
If you're out there, stop by the booth and ask the team what they think. I mean, it'd be interesting. But I think that's, what I've got in my mind on a day-to-day.
Yeah, yeah. So John, you went from the operations manager to the CEO of the company overnight. What was your approach to leadership?
It evolved big time. Initially when I first took over, I thought I was the only person in the company that could do anything, so I tried. Again, you realize pretty quickly you can't do it all. You have to have a team, you have to have a strong staff around you. That took a while for me to figure out, and we had some successes early, we had some failures early, and again, I realized probably within the first year that I need help. Like, I have to have people people that I can trust to make good decisions. I think if you asked my employees when I sold in 2019, they'd say, "Oh, he was great." I was always the good guy at that point. I'd never had to go in and crack any knuckles. It was the management doing that. But I would go in, and again, same thing. I call it management by walking around, and I think it is actually a concept. I didn't know that at the time, but I would just kind of roll in, and talk to people. What's going on? Everything okay? You have everything you need? Great. Okay. And then if there was an issue, I'd speak to their manager about it. So it went from a very ultra, micromanager to almost the complete opposite by the time I sold. But the company was doing really well on having the right people in the right seats. And so once I realized that was kind of an option, it made management of the business a lot easier.
Interesting. So, over your 26 years, Robert, what is there one leadership attribute that has contributed the most to your success?
Accountability. The word I would use is accountability. Celebrating and rewarding your best performers and dealing with people that can't, won't, or don't. It's really what it boils down to.
Robert, you have any?
Okay, for me, if I look back over the 26 years, vision. I think as a leader, I've got to have vision and pull all the data points I can in, external and internal, to build that vision and pull feedback from the team internally. I mean, everywhere I can, every data point. And then the ability to execute against that vision, drive, which takes perseverance. I mean, those are probably the big drivers, along with willingness to change along the way. That's one of our core values, but learning that lesson over the years the hard way. Those would be my things I would say allow me to still be here.
John?
Two things that kind of stick out there. The first thing is, treat your entire team the way you want to be treated. And again, I had the benefit of working for the company prior. I've had some really horrible bosses in the past. I've had some really good bosses in the past. And when I reflected on this discussion, those were a couple of things that popped up. There were some people that even the worst bosses I learned from. And you want to continue to ensure that you're not making the same mistakes they did when you were an employee. And then the second thing is, I never asked any of my staff to do anything that I wouldn't do myself. And they understood that. If there was, we have a storm come through and, we're plucking boats out of the water, or where, the dock master didn't show up. So, I would go down and I'd start cleaning boats. So the only thing I couldn't do was the accounting. And I had a really good accountant for that. So I can't even write a check. But it was, I think, from a leadership standpoint, I really tried to follow those two guiding principles through my entire career.
So I think we all know the boating industry is very cyclical, and sometimes the best of times can bring as many challenges as the worst of times. But do good times and bad times require different leadership from you. Robert?
Keeps picking on you.
Yeah, it's actually, I think, that's a tough question. And you and I reflect on that. I think, actually, Tom, that I don't change my leadership style, tough times or good times, bad times. The core fundamentals stay the same. The core values stay the same. We're still driving in the same direction. Now, your priorities and where you're focusing your energies may change, down and up. But I don't think I changed my leadership style in good times or bad. I think that you're always looking at as many data points as we can externally, internally, and then trying to build that action plan. We're just, we're trying to be the best we can be in a downward slope or an upward scale, which both can be just as challenging.
Yeah.
So for me, when I think about it, I don't think I changed my leadership style.
Steve,
I think the core values guide you, so they guide you on the way down, they guide you on the way up, and keeps everybody in sync. So I would say the playbook is different for sure, depending on where you are in the cycle. And as you grow older in the industry, you'll recognize, you have the same problems on the way up.
Right.
And the same problems each time it contracts. It is a cyclical industry, but those core values will guide you. And the nice thing is, after you get your team all bought in on those core values and on the vision for the company, it's not as hands-on. It's you're relying on them to affect whatever playbook actions need to happen, and you don't have to do it all yourself. I'm guessing you folks are here because you've got the fire that burns within you to do more than you're doing right now. And you can hear the three of us, we each have a different way of doing this, and when you in your job or whatever opportunity you decide to seize, you will do it in your own way. And that's important that you do it in your own way, because it'll be true to yourself and you'll be very, very effective at that, in doing it your own way. But those core values will be what guide everything.
That's some really good advice. John, did you have any bad times?
We didn't. Even the worst time in the industry was the best time for the boat club. I mean, that 27, 28, or 2007, 8, 9.
It's safe to say that now.
Yeah, it is. It is. It was that was when our club blew up. So we had bad things happen, and I think the advice I have there is never let your people know how good or how bad it is, because if it's really good, they may not want to try as hard. If it's really bad, they may go seek other employment elsewhere because they think that things are circling the drain. So we were very fortunate that we were able to really stay steady, had a positive trajectory during in my entire tenure with Freedom Boat Club. But even when it was really good, we tried not to let everybody know how good it was. So, but at the same time, rewarding them for all of the positive benefits to the club. So
Robert, earlier I think you mentioned or talked a little bit about resilience. And difficult times call for resilience, and I think we saw that in the global financial crisis, the beginning of the pandemic. How do you develop resilience personally and for your organization, Steve?
I think success comes, the road to success is always under construction. You never, in your mind, you never get there. There's always work to be done. There's always things to do. In the early days of my career, getting up one more time than you fall down is, just paramount. And if you need that ability, and you need that ability not to take it personally, get up, dust yourself off. And in times of crisis, you find out, in hindsight, after the crisis, you find out how good you are. And your team finds out how good they are during those times of crisis. And there will be crisis. There will be crisis. It's just a fact of life that, particularly in the earlier days of the company, there will be crises. And you need resilience in order to learn your lesson, find out what the lesson was, make sure when you lose that you don't lose the lesson. Because when you don't get the sale, find out why. If you have a problem, something didn't go your way, find out why. Don't walk away from it until you understand the reason. Because if you don't understand the reason, it's going to happen again. So having that determination, that grit, it's essential. Because you're going to need to get up one more time than you fall down on your way to success. And falling down is part of the course.
Robert, how do you build resilience in your organization?
Just like Steve.
At the bottom of every one of these stories, right, it's a story of failure. I mean, that's the other thing. Success often looks like failure in the middle. Any success, I promise you, any success that I've enjoyed, it looked like a dismal failure at some point, maybe repeatedly during the middle, and it only came from the determination not to give up.
Yeah, just take a beating, be willing to take that beating and keep learning the lessons. I mean, like Steve said, especially in those first 10 years of any adventure, 5 years, 10 years, you're building resilience every day by problem solving and staying the course and having the vision to motivate your team and building up on those war wounds and battle wounds. And really, we learned all of our best lessons from our biggest mistakes. And we wouldn't be here if we were stubborn and didn't learn along the way enough to modify the plan. And I guess when I think about perseverance and resilience, you just identifying those weaknesses became really important, and filling those holes either with key people. Everybody's got strengths and weaknesses. So as you're building up that armor and becoming stronger at any situation that's coming at you, and sometimes it feels daily as a leader, but you're learning and developing and building little plates of armor along the way and filling in those holes around you. And whether you realize it or not, you look back at a certain point in time and you can see that it's working. You stay the course, and you've developed core values, and your team's going in the same way, and you've got a synergy. At some point in time, there's this aha moment, and I mean it exists. And I don't know where you are in your story, where you are in your adventure, but there may be an aha moment where you can feel the synergy of your team in every department going in the same direction, right at the same moment in time. It's like a perfect song coming together where it's in tune. And so that just only further solidifies your path, right? And you keep building that resilience or perseverance, by repeating it. Fall down, get up, go.
John, do you have any thoughts on resilience?
Yeah, I think in my career, it seems like out of adversity always came some type of opportunity. There was something that we learned when things were bad that we were able to then turn around and make a positive, make a change, embrace that change. And then, some of the most, revolutionary, there was no playbook in the boat club business. We were kind of there were other boat clubs out there, but we were the biggest, we were the fastest growing and all of that. So I didn't have a whole lot of resources. So we were our resources, and many of the changes and the policies that are in place today were changes and policies that we developed when things weren't going the best, and so there's an opportunity in adversity. You just have to be able to take a step back, not get beat down by the problem you're handling, and figure out what the solution is. And I firmly believe that, and that's been what it's kind of how we trained our management team. It's don't come to me with a problem, come to me with a solution, and we'll get through this together. We'll figure it out.
So we before we got started this morning, we were talking a little bit about sleep. So how important is sleep to your ability to lead, and how much do you sleep? Steve?
One of the questions I asked Tom since he retired, does he sleep through the night? Because when you're in charge, you don't sleep that much. I mean, I wake up in the middle of the night. I thought when I sold the company, I would sleep through the night and I still wake up at 4 in the morning thinking about things. And I always thought, and talking about curses, it's a curse. But I saw, we had the pleasure of having Nick Saban speak at the Barletta dealer meeting a couple of weeks ago. And I was gratified to hear him say that even on the nights where he'd won a national championship, he woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning wondering who was going to be trying to hire his coaches, which one of his players was going to go pro, and who he needed to recruit. And he said it happened, he won national championships, I think 7 times. It happened every time. So I think, when you're, and this, I hope you're different. I hope you guys are different. But
Definitely
I wake up, if I've got a problem I'm noodling on, I'll wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning thinking about it, and I wind up getting up. Just my brain will start noodling on it. And I would love to say it's totally productive. It's not. But I wake up in the middle of the night thinking about things.
Yeah, I mean, when I think about sleep as a leader, okay, so I probably average 5 to 7 hours a night, most nights, and I think over time have consciously had to work at more balance, shutting my brain off, because I would lay awake at night, as I said earlier, and most of my thought during the night is excitement, excited about a product or an opportunity. On the flip side, maybe there's a defining moment, like I'm problem solving something big, a transitional point in the business, and I'm problem solving through the night. But I think at this stage I've gotten really good at shutting that switch off through different outlets, music, I play music, guitar, piano, anything to decompress, and then just telling myself, listen, it'll be there in the morning. And I shut the electronics off, and I think as a conscious effort, just shut it off. So probably 85% of my nights, I'm not dreaming about work, but that 15%, I'm either excited about a new product or a defining moment where I'm problem solving, which I also love problem solving, even in the hardest moments. And then add into sleep, just start adding exercise, meditation, whatever into your routine. I start at 5 a.m. to 7 a.m., and it's just, personal time for that. So that's where we're at now.
John, how much do you sleep?
So, last 3 nights haven't been great because I've been anxious about this panel. So, waking up a lot.
That's retired life right there, because I didn't have time to think about it.
Prior to that, yeah, it's been great for the last 3 years. No, but similar, I had a very active imagination. There was always something going on. You wake up in the middle of the night, you're thinking about, well, I have to do this tomorrow, I have to do that tomorrow. So yeah, I guess now I try to get about 8 hours of sleep a night, and most of the time that works. While I was working and in charge, and even prior to that, again, just waking up thinking about what I have to do tomorrow. I didn't do this today. It's so it has always been a challenge for me to get a good night's sleep, especially when I know something's looming the next day. So I appreciate IBEX for ruining 3 nights of sleep.
So before I retired, much like Steve and these other gentlemen, I woke up every night thinking about something in the business, some problem that needed a solution or some opportunity or whatever, and the mind would just go, 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 go. And Steve asked me, he said, in retirement, do you sleep through the night? And I said, yes.
Yeah.
So there's hope.
Bravo.
I used to sleep 5 to 7 hours a night. Now I get about 7 to 9. So it's great.
There's hope.
There's hope. There's hope. There's hope. A lot of the literature around leadership today talks about kindness and caring in leadership. How important are kindness and caring by company leaders? John?
I'll take the difficult one. Yeah. I think it's paramount. I think you have to care about the customer. You have to care about your employees. You have to care about the entirety of the business. With that being said, I think there's also times when you need to there are hard business decisions that have to be made, and while it doesn't disengage the human factor, you have to be able to separate yourself from that. So, when I had Freedom Boat Club, I looked at it as a family, and occasionally we had to make a hard decision. And a family member needed to move on to another opportunity. And almost in every situation, it turned out better for them than it would have had they stayed. But I feel like, if you asked my staff, if you asked my employees, they would say that I was a very caring owner, a very caring leader. And I think you have to be able to really understand the human factor and ensure that you are treating the people around you thoughtfully and carefully. So,
Steve, what are your thoughts on kindness and caring in leadership?
I think I'm not sure that kindness would be a word that would be used to describe me. Caring for sure, and treating everyone with respect, treating everyone as you want to be treated yourself. That comes first. And if that guides when you have to terminate an employee or separate a vendor or a dealer, treating them with respect is, I think, everybody sees it. Everybody, it's back to the core values, how you treat people that aren't performing, how you treat vendors that aren't performing. Respect has to be one of your core values, treating people like you want to be treated. If I wasn't performing, how would I want to be treated? If I needed to be fired after repeated counseling sessions, how would I want to be treated? And everyone in the organization sees that. So caring for sure and respecting those core values. Kindness, I don't think my kids would tell you I was kind. I don't think, I hear sometimes someone say about some other guy, oh, he's so sweet. And I think to myself, I am sure no one said that about me ever. But anyway.
Robert, you have any thoughts on kindness and caring in leadership?
Yeah, we don't use the word kindness very often, but if I think about caring, I think about, I want that to be a feeling in the organization. Relationship driven is one of our core values, and internally and externally, whether it's a vendor, an employee, or a partner, anybody that we touch, we want them to feel that we care and be caring, and we want that relationship you want it to be a feeling. I want everybody just to know that. I think individually inside the organization, we try and do things to show the employees like macro projects so they feel like we care as an organization. It's part of our relationship side. Like we've started a nonprofit, We Are Family Fund. It's owned by the employees for the employees. We all invest into it. They fall on hard times. They can apply to the committee, the governing body, for a grant or a loan, which most of the time is a grant. They have a health issue, medical issue, their car breaks down. They can access that fund, making a nice environment from the work in. It's important to us. I subsidize their food in the cantina. If they pick healthy options, I pay 50% of it so that they can eat on site at Roswell for $2.50 a day, so they don't have to leave. If they pick the junk food, they pay full price or double. But, all those little things, I think, show that you care and there's a level of kindness. But, as a leader, you're careful about the kindness rule. Like, we want to be strong and intentional.
So, you want to be strong and intentional. Do you show emotions at work? Do you show vulnerability
100%.
at work?
I'm a disaster. No. I am what I am. Like you get what you get. I'm very human. So there's a lot of emotion. I definitely not. I don't even try and be disciplined about that because I think the approach gains. We're human, so we can have a connection and a real connection. People can be honest, and it breaks down walls with people. So if they're having a conversation, I'm not afraid to be upset or, try not to yell too much in front of the staff. But, I'm not afraid to be emotional. Definitely not.
Steve?
Ditto. I think, be real, be yourself, be vulnerable. Be your,
Vulnerable.
be, for you. I don't think you can have passion without emotion.
Right.
Don't be afraid. Be yourself. You're, in being yourself, you're all beautiful, right? That's our beauty. Be real.
John?
Yeah, same here. Identical. There were good times, there were bad times.
For 60 years, Heese and Maxwell have been leaders in marine innovation, trusted by professionals around the globe.
Hi, I'm Joe Brenna, Vice President of Customer Support at Intrepid Powerboats. The Heese Companies has always been a great ally. Support is superb. The products are even better than superb, and we have had very good results using the Maxwell windlasses and the Heese thrusters.
As part of the Yanmar family, we bring deep knowledge and a legacy of quality to every customer. Equip your journey with trust, innovation, and excellence. Visit Heese.com/USA to learn more.
There were things I said that I wasn't proud of saying in a group environment, but you have to. You have to be true to yourself. I've seen leaders out there that'll, yes you to death, and then they go scream at the person working under them to go scream at you. I think that's one of the reasons why I had the respect in my organization, is that everybody knew where they stood with me. And if you messed up, I told you messed up. If you did a good job, I told you did a great job. So it was a matter of, again, being yourself, being true to yourself. And I think in leadership in general, people respect that. People that work for you truly respect that when they're not guessing where they stand in your eyes. So everybody knew.
So we've talked about waking up in the night trying to solve problems, and most leaders are creative problem solvers. How do you develop creative problem solving skills in your organization? Steve?
I like asking why. Just keep asking why. Why? And you'll get to the root cause. I also believe getting heads together. If there's a problem, getting your best problem solvers together. Because, as I said earlier, there's no monopoly on wisdom. And I certainly don't have all the answers. I'm certainly not the smartest person in this room. But I can get our team together. If there's a problem that needs solving, we're going to solve it together.
John, how did you develop problem-solving skills in your people?
Very similar. It wasn't typically when there was a problem in our organization, it wasn't one person's problem. It was a problem that many people were having, or they just didn't know that other people were having the same issue. So we were pretty good about monthly meetings with all of our management staff, where they'd bring these problems to the other managers, and we'd actually carve out a section in our meeting for these issues in general, because there may have been a solution at another dock, for example, that it was just not communicated very well to some of their peers. And then from a franchise level, one of the things I didn't mention is that we franchised the concept of Freedom Boat Club. So outside of the west coast of Florida, the majority of the locations were franchise owned. So they were independently owned by franchisees. And we started a 20 group, and if you're in the dealership world, you know what a 20 group is. So David Parker from Parker Business Planning put that together for us, and that was kind of an eye-opening experience for all of our franchisees, because prior to that, we would get together once a year, and it was our annual convention, and they'd talk, and it'd be great, and then they'd leave there, and then they'd see each other the next year. They didn't have a network of people to bounce ideas off of. So that has been extremely successful. We had 2 groups going at the time that I left, and we solved some of the biggest problems within our organization in these meetings. And not only that, but it was able to be scaled across the entire network since we were in the room. So the people that were not in the room, we were able to establish that. So we kind of started having mini sessions like that in our own corporate locations, just to bring the brain trust together. As Steve said, I was not the smartest person in my business at all. There were a lot smarter people working for me, but it's giving them, again, the tools and the environment to help solve those problems, give them the resources to help solve those problems. So,
John, you said something that's really important, I think, that resonated with me and I think should be shared. Figure out where the learning is. And for me, it was actually at the NMMA. So getting involved in the NMMA, we bought this company in 2000. I ran a yacht builder in Europe. Even though both products floated, almost nothing to do with each other, the two businesses. By getting involved in the NMMA, I met the smartest people in the industry and developed a relationship with them. They wouldn't have taken my phone call if I'd called them up and said, if I'd called Chris Carroll, cold called her and asked her a question, she would be under no obligation to talk to me. But I got to know Chris, I got to know Joan Maxwell, I got to know the luminaries of the industry by working on other issues with the NMMA. And through that, I had a sounding board. Scott Deal, another great one. You'll find out there's so much learning there. So I'd encourage you, get involved in the NMMA or the 20 group angle, the MACD board. Get involved. There's committees. There's more work to do. You might be thinking, well, there's probably nothing for me to do there. There's more work to do there than can ever get done. Get involved, and you will learn so much along the way, and you'll also meet the movers and shakers of the industry.
Mentors.
Mentors.
Everybody needs mentors.
So Robert, you were very active in maybe still are, the Water Sports Industry Association.
They made
now-
me the president of that. Yeah. Still there?
Still there.
Is anybody looking for another job?
And you're on the NMMA board.
Yes.
Could you talk about how those experiences have helped you?
Yeah, I mean, just to Steve's point, so that's part of those things you learn as you grow in your adventure. For me, getting to a point, I mean, when you're in the business and you're operating every day and you're in the trenches and you're fighting, I mean, there's not a lot of time to reach out and want to be part of all these organizations in those early stages. But when you can put a team in place, the sooner you can put a team in place that are driving your vision, you get to that point, you've got a good management team, and you can get out of the weeds, right? So you can look from a macro view on the business instead of being in the business, like they say. Get a mentor or two along the way. But then the organizations, for me, it's part of giving back. The industry's given me everything over 26 years. I mean, I could have imagined still being here and this being my career. I have everything to thank to this industry. And I feel like it's a privilege every day to be here. So I'm willing to work to keep the view. But along that path, as we're giving back and joining organizations, back to Steve's original point, you meet amazing people. Like these are there's icons and leaders and so much captured knowledge in this industry of like-minded people that probably are part of your culture, right? You've got like-minded people all through this building. We're all part of the same industry, so you're fast friends, right? You're already aligned through water and water sports and boating and whatever piece of the industry you're passionate about. So the opportunities to create friends and grow from those relationships is just tremendous on how you're going to grow as a person. And those discussions are inspiring. I'm going to learn from Steve, and I'm going to learn from everybody I interact with along the way. And that's that curiosity, right? We're always learning. We're never there. We're never at a finish line. And giving back to these organizations, obviously, in every way that you can, will only, you'll be rewarded, right? Your business, I think, will benefit for sure.
So over probably 30 years of running trade associations, almost every person who was involved, even on committees or at the board level, would comment to me that they felt they got so much more out of their participation than they gave back. That it really does help you in so many ways through those relationships.
The intangibles are unmeasurable.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with shortcuts, and there's shortcuts to learning by developing the relationships with the industry association, with the buying groups here at IBEX. And you'd think that you'd arrive at these places and they would be crowded. The boat pack, another great one. Contribute to the boat pack, go to the boat pack events. There's not 1,000 people there. There's 80 or 100. And if you look around, it's the leaders of the industry. So that, if you're a junior person in the industry or mid-level career, get involved in the boat pack. I think it costs $100 to go to the event. You could probably put it on your expense report. And go, because you will meet the leaders of the industry right there.
Yeah, that's very true.
Get involved.
Very true.
There is more work to do than you can imagine. The door is open for everybody. You walk in there, everyone will be glad you're there, and glad to meet you, and you'll learn.
Yeah, so it's really great advice. So I think most good leaders would agree that communication is really important, and they're probably pretty good communicators. As a leader, what priority do you put on communication, and how do you execute on that? Robert, you want to go
Sure.
first?
All right. What do you think, Tom? Okay, so I think if I look at the organization, we all know communication's important, and you can adopt all the latest technologies, softwares, and strategies, and all those pieces to make it easier and faster. And we've got AI. But if I peel that layer back and say, how do I play it forward and make it successful? I think I hate to come back to the core values again, but if you've got synergy between all the leaders in your departments and you allow them to communicate without judgment, right? You're not getting mad about information or them making mistakes or falling down and getting back up, because everybody will. Every department and every person in your organization is human. But if those walls have been taken down and those barriers aren't there anymore, and you start to notice synergies between leaders in your organization, your managers, your middle managers, or just your best people, if there's good communication, it means you're going in the same direction. And I think as soon as you notice as a leader that you've got a communication problem somewhere in the organization, if you drill down, it means they're not all aligned culturally. So for me, I think it's more about making sure that everybody's on the same path and making sure there's no walls and they're not afraid of communicating, right? Communication only becomes either they're protecting information for job security, or they're not aligned with your vision, or they're afraid because they're being yelled at for, someone's not allowing them to communicate, so they're afraid. But if you tear all that down, I think, you notice that it improves.
So John, you had the additional challenge of having to communicate with franchisees who are all independent business owners, as well as communication within your organization. How did you execute on communicating?
So if you talk to my wife, she will tell you I'm the worst communicator ever. That goes without saying. But yeah, it was a challenge. A challenge geography, a challenge over, just time zones. We struggled. If there's one thing I felt like we could have done a lot better, and me in particular, it was the communication across our entire network. Now the technology is there with, we did weekly newsletters, monthly newsletters. We were always, putting out press releases. We tried our best, but with our side of the industry, everything moved so fast, between new locations popping up, and we had this meteoric growth, of 130 locations within a 4-year period, and it was really kind of insane. Until we brought in, I'm sure most of you know Wanda Kenton-Smith. That was a kind of a game changer within our company, because prior to that, we had no communication whatsoever. She did her best to corral me and to make sure that I was telling her what I needed her to communicate. But it is a challenge, and I will tell you that in any organization, nobody is great at communicating, but there are companies that are really good, and you cannot over-communicate. One of the most valuable lessons that I learned is you cannot over-communicate. Say it 3 times to everybody, and hopefully it gets down the chain and down the line to the people that need to hear it. So I wish I had some words of wisdom, but
That's good wisdom right there.
Yeah, over-communicate. You can't over-communicate. Steve, how do you execute on
Our engagement surveys told us that the employees wanted more communication, and I'm embarrassed to say it came up. We do it every other year. It came up a few years in a row, and they no longer say that because we did 2 things. One is we got this app, we called it Crisco Connect, and we put all the employee benefit stuff on there, the health insurance, so it kind of forced the employees for things they needed, the 401k to go there for information. When they asked the HR department for something, they'd say it's in the app, it's in the app, and pretty soon everybody got the app. And we use the app to communicate, and we communicate in English, Spanish, and Creole. So it has to be done in 3 languages because we speak 3 languages at work. But that is a push for everything. And during hurricanes, we use it. There's news items going in there all the time. That helped. The other thing we do is we have listening sessions. There's one every month, either with me or one of my management team. We do one in Spanish, we do one in Creole, and we get the feedback from those kind of real time. And that's helped us with communication.
I'm going to make a note on that, Steve. Listening session.
The other, learning
take
never
that
ends.
Under advisement right now.
The other thing we do, business is a sport.
It's good.
I believe it's a sport. So, and in any sport, you got to have a scoreboard. So the scoreboard is our monthly financials. They go on the table. The leadership team looks at the numbers. It's transparent. If we're winning, we're losing. If we're over budget, if we're under budget, what are we doing about it? And it takes the pressure off of me. The answers are in the numbers. I don't have to say what the answers are. We look at the scoreboard. You know who's winning. You know who's losing.
Transparency.
Transparency.
That's a great form of communication in itself. I think we do the same thing. All of our leadership, there's a scoreboard. There's everything we've taken down all the things in between. It's open communication, open documentation, live documents. You may have, 30 people may have access to your work at any given moment. And 5 people working in a live document at the same time. You're not holding on to communication like it's currency anymore.
Yeah, we did the same exact thing. It was, and that was something new that we had implemented. And when I first handed it to our managers, they were like, "What are you showing us the numbers for?" I'm like, "Because you need to know. You're helping me run this business, and I'm not trying to hide anything from you." So that, again, that transparency, and it showed them that they were a vested part of the organization as well. There's trust there now. They understand that, they're part of this thing, and they're helping make those decisions to drive not only, their salary and their paycheck, but the bottom line of the company. And that buy-in was huge when we started those, monthly financial meetings. So,
to be fair, lesson learned, our senior executive team has that complete transparency, which is a leadership team of about 8. The middle managers don't get all the financial data. We just learned that they may not understand it to a level that they needed. So it's a little different scorecard.
They
Maybe
get the
more
metrics.
like metrics, yes, production number, percentage hit or miss. There's a lot of KPIs that you'll develop in every section of the business, from customer service, warranty, all the way through production. So think about different communication transparency for each level of the business.
One day I was sitting at my desk and I realized that because of the position I was in and the people I talked to and the traveling I did, there was a lot of information that was coming to me, across my desk, through my mind. And my staff, who didn't have all the same contacts, didn't do as much travel, I wondered, I need to share this information with them? How can I share this information? And so this is about 15 years ago. I started writing a daily blog. I don't know if people blog anymore, but they probably vlog now with a V. But I wrote a daily blog, and it might be a short paragraph one day, it might be a full page another day. It just depended on what I learned that day or the day before that I wanted the rest of the team to know. And I also used it to wish people happy birthday and happy anniversary and other kinds of things. But it got to the point that people really anticipated getting that every morning. And I've been retired 5 years. I still run into staff and they say, we miss your blog. So,
Tom, you should know, I stole an idea from you.
Oh.
One of the early days that I was associating with the NMMA on the board, I got this booklet, and it had a picture of everybody in the NMMA, and it had their name and their title, but most importantly, it had "talk to me about ... and it had a list of things under each person. And we took that and did it in our company. So if you're in payroll, talk to me about paycheck mistakes, talk to me about health insurance, talk to me about, and because you get a big company, you get a new employee, they have a problem, they don't know who to talk to. And they might go wandering around, or on the app, they can look and say, oh, that's the person I need to talk to. And they arrive with their question, and they can get it resolved. So stealing ideas is another success ingredient.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. So, Steve and Robert, you've been with your companies over 20 years. Have you had to reinvent yourself during that 20-year period, ever? And if so, how?
Absolutely. Do you want me to
Go,
first?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. If I look back, I'd say I feel like I was fortunate enough to be able to keep reinventing myself and learning year over year to still be here and still be relevant and hopefully be an asset to my team. If I felt like I wasn't, I would step aside and put someone in better than me if I can find them. But I think you do, because in early stages, you're in the trenches, you're an operator, you're wearing a lot of hats, at least I was. From filling orders to sales, product development. I mean, at one point I was welding from 8 o'clock at night till midnight, packaging until 2 in the morning, doing the invoicing, and then engineering drawings between 10 and 12, But as you step up out of those areas, you can start to identify and, reinvent yourself into a little more of a leader, trying to grow people in each department, and try to learn very, very quickly, SWOT analysis, if you will. That's an old term, but what are my strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats, and start reinventing yourself as a better version of yourself, hopefully, if you're going to keep leading this organization. And for me, I knew I needed to learn a lot more about finance instead of Steve's approach. There's adult education programs. I went to Harvard and did their MBA, their finance program, and you can start picking and cherry picking all those pieces that maybe are weaknesses and keep reinventing a better leader all the time, every day, every year. I think that is a secret to sustainability and perseverance. If you want to stay relevant and keep growing your business, I think you have to keep with a willingness to change.
Learning never ends. It never ends. I'm a humble student. I think you need to be a humble student. I'm constantly looking for places to go where I can learn. Here is one of them for sure, IBEX. ABC is one of them for sure. I make a point with our leadership team to go somewhere every year where we can learn. Last year we went to Porsche. I just wrote to them and said, hey, here's who I am. Can I come? Can we have a tour? Can we talk to you? I wrote to them on a Saturday, by the way, at lunchtime. I got an answer that day. It was 6 o'clock in Germany. Wow. I got an answer from them. We spent the day at the Porsche factory in Stuttgart. But I try to do that once a year, and it can be close to home. Lazy Days is here in Tampa. I don't know if you know what it is. It's a $1 billion RV dealership. It's like a mile long on I-4, right outside of Tampa. We spent a day there studying their opportunity, studying studied him. A friend of mine works there. He was what used to be a Hobie Cat rep, and now he's a sales manager at Lazy Days. And he gave us a backstage tour. Again, looking for places where you can get lawn sprinkling and fertilizer for your brain, because learning never ends. This is a moving industry. You might come here and think, snapshot, it's the same next year. The customer's needs are changing, customer tastes are changing. It's constantly evolving, and you need to evolve to stay with it. And you're not going to do it in your office or in your home office. You got to get out. You got to get out in the field. Get out to the coal face. I go to boat shows. You'd think I'd be sick of boat shows. I am sick of boat shows. I can't afford not to go. Doesn't mean I need to go to every one, but I need to go to where the learning is, right? I need to go to Miami. I need to go to Fort Lauderdale. I need to go to Dusseldorf. I need to go to Cannes. I need to go to New York. You got to fish where the fish are. And if you're looking for ideas, they're not in your office.
Really good advice. So I have a lot more questions I could ask, but I'm going to take a break and let you ask some questions. What questions do you have for this panel? And before you start talking, we'll get you a mic. We need a mic over here, please.
Hello. All right. Thank you. I have 3 questions, and I apologize. I'm one of those people. Now I can't find the one I had for Steve because it was easy. Oh, yeah.
Good.
I actually remember it. Rob sort of spoke on it after, or Robert sort of spoke on it after you spoke about sharing your financials. Do you share how much education do you do for your employees for those financials? And do you share your financials with all your employees?
The entire financial pack goes on the table for the leadership team and everybody with the title of director or up. And when you first start doing that, not every, your financial people obviously know the financials cold. I know them cold. You have to educate others, sometimes at a pretty fundamental level of what's an income statement, what's a balance sheet, what's a statement of cash flow, almost go through it with a ruler. And after doing that a few months in a row, people pick it up pretty quickly.
Okay.
Beyond that, as Robert said, it's the metrics. So everybody in the company needs to know what percentage of our weekly ship target have we hit? Did we make our month?
Okay.
What was our labor efficiency? What was our shrink and damaged material? The metrics that determine our profitability. Did we break something on the line? Did it have to go back to the warehouse? How much was overtime? All those kinds of things are visible to everybody.
Are we winning or are we losing?
Are we winning or are we losing?
Yeah, and you don't need the financials to say that. You need the metrics, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Great, thank you so much, because we're looking at doing that in our own company. All right, I have 2 questions for Robert, if you don't mind. Again, I can't find one, but I got this one. You said that you give enough people enough rope to fail. However, you do that with guardrails. Can you give us an example of guardrails or speak to that a little bit more?
Yeah. This is an intricate thing, right? Because you have to think about it in ways where the best lessons learned for your team are going to come from some failure. So you have to identify what you're willing to let them fail at. So if they're experiencing something, you can kind of see they're maybe going in the wrong direction. You're going to know whether this is a fundamental, critical piece of your business that you can't afford to let them fail. In that case, I jump in, you're more coaching them along. But if it's something that's a little bit, it's okay to fail there, we're going to pick it up and go, and it may even cost some money. You have to decide what you're willing to invest in their education, if that makes sense. And if it's something that's going to completely hurt your business, you'll step in before they make that complete failure and prop it up, right? But the more they can learn, and then you identify it and analyze it and use it as a lesson, those failures can be valuable, I guess is what I was trying to say.
Yeah. Do you trust your leadership to make those decisions for you without your input?
At this stage in the game?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I do. Because I'm at a stage where I've got a senior executive. I trust every person completely, or they would not be on that team.
Perfect.
And so they've got that ability and there's communication, open communication. They fundamentally know if they feel uncomfortable or want to come, the door's open. But at this stage, I completely trust each of that leadership team to take care of their business underneath them. And if something goes off the rails, I mean, we find out soon enough.
Yeah, okay.
And don't be afraid to test them. Someone asks you a question, say, what do you recommend?
Yeah, okay.
And that way you'll know, and then after that, someone asks you a question, you can say, you decide.
All the time, even if you know the answer. I'd rather not give them, I've got a lot of captured knowledge in 26 years, but you want them to try and find those solutions and give you problem solving. I think you mentioned it. Come to me with solutions, and then I'd rather guide them in the right direction than just push what I think. And sometimes I might not, I think I've got the answer, and they end up going a better direction.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I found that too.
Good.
Because if you give them the
That's
answer,
the best feeling.
because if you give them the answer, they won't learn.
Yeah, there's no growth there.
There's
I
no
agree.
growth, exactly.
Thank you for expanding on that. Oh, I also want to say for all four of y'all, thank y'all for being here. It means a lot to me personally. I'm sure it's everybody else in this room, but spending your time to help educate us. Last question, Robert, you said that there's an aha moment where sometimes everybody's going in the right direction, or there's an aha point. I feel like we've had that in our own company before, but it's like
it can go away in a hurry.
That was my question. Is
Celebrate
it an aha
it.
point? Okay.
Celebrate it.
All right.
Take everybody celebrate it in some way.
Okay. Great, because I feel like we've had that aha moment, and it's like 60 seconds later, it's gone.
It's business.
And that's not uncommon. And I think the more developed you and your business, your team, everybody gets, you can hold those moments longer.
Yeah.
Right? You get
I
more
feel
and more
that now,
synergy,
yeah.
and those moments will start extending out. But in the early stages, I mean, you might run into another brick wall quickly.
Yeah. Well,
But-
thank you. Thank all of you.
You're welcome.
We
You're
really
welcome.
appreciate it.
Okay, who has the next question?
Hi there. I just want to endorse Tom's blog that he used to write because I had the opportunity to read it for many years, well over a decade, and it was kind of like reading the front page of the news every day, and it helped me to become a little bit more integrated into the industry and just understanding all the moving parts. So for those looking for ways to communicate with their teams, that was a great one. With younger team members, how do you all encourage more global thinking outside of your role, not just the day-to-day paces that you need to keep up with the work that you're doing, but starting to think about the business a little bit, just a more global level?
Who are you asking, I guess?
Yeah.
Any one of you.
Yeah.
I appreciate all your input.
I'll take it, I guess. One of the things that we try to have all of our employees do is think about what's the next step, right? What's the next level? We may have hired you in as a dock master, but you have aspirations to be a supervisor and then potentially go into management or go into the franchise side of the business. So we wanted them to get involved in other aspects of our business. We'd let them spend a day in the office if they wanted to, spend time with the member experience center folks or the accounting folks. Or we just tried to provide as many opportunities for them to see other aspects of the business as opposed to just, the kid that we're hiring on the dock who's 21 years old and trying to figure out what he's going to do with the rest of his life. We wanted to let him know that he could be doing that, or there are other opportunities within the business. And then the second part of that was we would invite them to all of these meetings because, it would be interesting. In our business, we'd have dock problems, and then we would bring them together with the other dock masters and other managers from other locations and let them network and understand that they're not just at our Venice location. They're part of Freedom Boat Club, which is a global business, and just the knowledge of that and the experience and the networking, we encourage them to come to ABC, come to some of the other industry events. So it's all the things that we kind of talked about with the networking component. Let them know that there's a bigger opportunity out there, especially in this industry. It's a huge, huge industry. So.
Okay, I'm going to make you dig more into the whole franchisee and dealer portion. So when you have a dealer network or a franchise network or a retailer network, you can do your best to communicate over and over and over again. In our organization, this fine lady makes us communicate as much as humanly possible. But when you don't get the buy-in, I think you said before, it's the people that won't, don't, or can't. They're not your employees. They're not your team. They're independent, passionate business owners. Have you found any other strategies to really try to get buy-in from the dealers to represent your brand as well as it should be, or the franchisees to represent and provide the services, besides just communicating crazily?
So I'll speak to the franchise side. Sometimes we had to make the hard decision to remove a franchisee. I mean, if they're not buying into the vision and the direction that the company's going in, sometimes it was closing a location, which we didn't like to do, but it happened a few times. Other times it would be to acquire them, and Brunswick has done a masterful job of removing some of the, I probably shouldn't say this, but I will. Some of the franchisees that weren't rowing in the same direction, but they had the capital to be able to do that. So they have really done a wonderful job getting everybody on board. And I think from a franchisor-franchisee relationship, it can be difficult because they're independent business owners that have bought into your model, but you need to get them to trust that what you're doing and the model that you are developing is going to make them successful. And the more buy-in you can get, the more participation you can get. We did things like put them on committees. All right, you don't like the tech that we have in the company, you're now the chairperson of the technology committee. Help us, direct us, tell us what you need, what you want. Same thing with membership or boat acquisitions or whatever it might have been. So make them get involved. And then they, if there is an issue and they're still not satisfied, they can't point the finger at themselves. So, yeah, they're awful. They're awful, but it's a great way to get them involved.
Steve, do you have any thoughts from the dealer perspective?
It's a continuum. You can't expect to be a new brand. When you have a new dealer, you can't expect to be their number one brand in the first month, and you have to earn that and work your way up. And as you do, you can share the metrics on market share with them. You can make it easier for them to be great by having really good tools for warranty claims, for communication, a dealer website, to make their life easy as a dealer. And over time, you migrate your way up the importance scale at the dealership. Ultimately, if they're making margin on your products and they're turning well, you will work your way up the importance scale. And there's places where you're going to be doing really, really well, and places where you have development needs. And you work on, you celebrate and you work on. Our VP of Sales calls it the seed, weed, and feed program. So, weeding is changing out a dealer, seeding is helping them grow, and the real successful ones you feed. And that it works. Over time, you got 120 franchise locations. We have 150 points of sale on earth. From little things, big things grow. And that's how you do it. There's no overnight success. I wish there was. Or if there is, I haven't found it. It's a process. Paying attention to the process is more important than paying attention to the result. So that weed, seed, and feed program is really important.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. This reminds me of grad school all over again, so it's good to go back. My question is, Do you feel it's important for small and medium-sized businesses to be engaged in their local communities? And if so, what activities do you think create the most positive impact for those businesses? And that can go out to all three of you if you like. Thank you.
We set a team up a long time ago called our Community Go team, and they decide what we're involved in, and they publicize it in the company, and anybody can show up. And there's something that goes on practically every month, and it's all over the map. It's Pride Week, it's Habitat for Humanity, it's beach cleanup, it's, there's something every 4 to 6 weeks. But our Community Go team, which anybody can be on, decides what those things are. And I think it really is important. I think employees love it. They want to be part of, together we can be part of something bigger than we are. And that's a great way to show that.
Yeah, to Steve's point, I think that every business has an obligation to give back. I mean, it's one of our core values is giving back into the community and giving back into the culture, the employees themselves. So similarly, we've got the We Are Family Fund and the employee group, and some of the most impactful things, I think, when I look at the external work that they do, or we do as a company, like the Habitat for Humanity stuff, Daily Bread, so feeding people. Boys and Girls Club is one that we're very active with and proud of, making sure kids have a meal, a safe place to go after school. But all those things in the community, I think every business, if you, at some point when you get out of the weeds, becoming a priority to give back to the community that you're in and that your people are working in, and you can see them to hold that with a sense of pride. And I mean, I've got people that tear up in any one of these instances because they were that person, or they were the person that was at the Boys and Girls Club when they were young, and now they're a middle manager, right? And it's a very impactful thing to be involved in their community and our communities. So I think it's critical.
Yeah, same with us. We were very involved from a philanthropic standpoint. One of our big pushes was Big Brothers Big Sisters, where we do a national event and take the bigs and littles out on the water. Most of the time, this was the first time a kid had even come close to being near a boat. So it was very impactful. We did build homes all over the country with Habitat as well. And again, I think the success that we started to have when I reflect really started once we got involved in the community. Once we started really getting out there and saying, hey, here we are. We're a resource, we're philanthropic, but we're a business and we're a community business. So, and it was really impactful for our side of the business, for sure.
Just 2 rows back, yep.
Okay, I have 2 questions. So my first question is specifically for Steven. So you have experience buying bankrupt businesses, going in and turning them around. Loaded question, but how would you describe some key points of leadership in stepping into buying a new business and leading the people in that business to turn around for success? Did you have experience keeping key people and then trying to manage those same individuals? Did you strip the employees and rebuild entirely, or what did that look like walking in and leading a new organization?
That's a really good question. I think each situation was different, that I'm not sure there's a game plan where I could say I automatically changed everybody out. Sometimes the business, Chris Kraft was dead, there was no employees. So in that case, I was obsessed with finding out who were the good people that worked there in the past. And I did that by just asking everybody that I ran across. There was outboard marine people at the bankruptcy auction. Who were the good people? I must have asked that question 100 times. And I put a little core room, at the beginning I put a small core of them together. We needed to develop new products. So I think we had 15 people for the first year that were really working on product development. So just, assessing the people, you're putting a team together, so they need, as Robert said, everyone has different strengths and weaknesses. So you're putting a team together. Not everyone needs to be able to punt, pass, and kick. You need a team. So just constantly assessing the people. And that never ends, because as the company grows, you have people that can grow with the company, that can grow faster than the company and take on more, and people that can't grow with the company. And it's important that you deal with those folks respectively too. Everyone could be an A player somewhere, so firing them isn't necessarily what you do. Everybody can be an A player somewhere. And if the company is big enough, you have more options with that. So I think the key is assessing the people constantly as opposed to having a game plan of everyone needs to go or who can stay. But for sure, when you all are here, and if you listen to the success stories here, John disrupted the industry. I know he found pain points and solved them, which was brilliant. Robert, at 10,000 feet, he saw solutions to problems that everybody had, but no one had come up with the solutions. And he disrupted in that way. He did things better than were being done by others. You guys are here, I'm guessing you got an idea, you got a problem you have a solution for, or you've got a fire that burns within you that's not being satisfied in what you're doing now. Explore that, feed that. If your idea is to build center console fishing boats, I'd probably say don't do that. But if your idea is to solve a problem, disruption always comes from the pain points. There's pain points everywhere in every industry. There's pain points everywhere. Talk to a boat owner. There's pain points everywhere. So I encourage you to exploit what you see. It's the beauty of being in one industry, right? You know where the pain points are. When you know where the pain points are, it's lower risk. You're not, just putting your money in a new business in a new industry or investing your life in that. You've lowered your risk because you're in the industry and you know what your solutions are.
I've got a burning fire inside me, Steve.
Of course you do.
Rizcraft or Roscraft.
If I had a loaf of French bread, I'd hit him over the head.
So I said I had two questions, and
Yeah.
this can be one for any of you. So I'm part of a company that we're a well-established manufacturing facility in other industries, and this is our very first time stepping into the marine and boating period. So showing up at the IBEX show is like, okay, marine and boating customers, where are you? So what is your advice to somebody who's a well-established business but very, very new to the industry? What should we do other than coming to the IBEX show?
Me? I could say, well, you picked a heck of a time to come, didn't you? Things are on top. Well, I think, it's about relationships, right? You're here, you're trying to kick down doors, and it's about building the relationships. And again, like Steve said, that takes time. Every overnight success takes 10 years. I've been waiting 26 years. But, you start developing relationships, and you'll find out who the key players are, and obviously building your brand and your product and service. And I don't know that there's a shortcut to that, but you're already here and trying to figure out who the leaders are and how you can make those relationships. So I think it's relationship driven. That's probably what's going to build your brand in any market. But anybody else got another idea?
We kind of talked about it too. It's get involved in everything that the industry has to offer.
Right.
Go to every, all of the dealership meetings. Go to, get involved in MRA, get involved in ABC.
Boat Pack.
Boat Pack is huge. We got involved in Boat Pack, and again, like I think it was Tom that said, you walk into that room, and it's the players in the industry. You start seeing all of the same people, and those are the people that you can mentor. You can help you navigate. You have a question. That's one thing about this industry. Even though it's competitive, you've got an industry full of people that want you to be successful. Just don't build something that's going to compete with Chris Craft.
No.
It really is. It's a great network of people, and it's been it was institutional in our growth and making sure that we were going down the right channels. I will tell you, and Tom disagrees with this, but he didn't like me much when I started getting involved in and it wasn't that he didn't like me. He didn't know what to do with me. But it was part of that discussion. Like, all right, this guy, I'm repping the boat companies here, and this guy, But we're talking earlier, last year at Freedom Boat Club, we bought 3,000 boats. That's a lot of boats. So again, the industry feeds off of itself. So become part of it and immerse yourself in it.
But careful, you may never leave.
Yeah, you won't.
That rumor's true.
Yeah,
Once you're in it.
Your shirt might change.
Yeah.
But
And I would
the logo
say,
on your shirt might change. But
the industry is looking for new suppliers. If you look at Patrick and Dometic and Lippert, all of them have acquired 100 companies or more in the last 10 years. So the supply base is consolidating, and that has some good things and some bad things to it. But I think in general, the marine OEMs would welcome new suppliers. So, there's no overnight success. You're not going to walk out of here with a lot of orders. As Robert said, it's relationships. You're dealing with engineering departments. They're conservative. They don't want to put their customers in harm's way. Ask a lot of questions. When you lose, don't lose the lesson. What do we got to do to win? Figure out what the right questions to ask are and ask them repeatedly. But don't be discouraged, because the industry in general needs more suppliers.
I should have paid $70. I've gotten so much out of these guys up here.
we got it for free. I feel like I won the lottery.
Yeah.
sitting here.
Over here.
Oh, good advice, Steve.
Good afternoon. My name is Charlotte, and I'm a small business owner, manufacturing. We've been in the industry for 25 years, so we're pretty well established, but we've always stayed small. And so I guess my question is, how do you know when you're ready to start scaling your business to a slightly larger, and what has been your experience with the risk aspect of going from small to a medium-sized business? So we have 15 employees, 20 employees. How do you get it to that 50 to 100 mark? And what has been your challenge, and what kind of, a lot of questions here, but what kind of advice could you give someone like me into leading that business to growing?
Charlotte? I should field that, I guess. Well, that was a lot of wrapped up. I think I understand. Buckle up, and I think you're already asking that question, so I think mentally you've already decided that you might want to scale up, right? So it's not really a case of whether you want to or not. So I think that identifying the roadmap, the game plan, it is a real, so that's one of the big chapters, I think, going from 15 to 20 people to 40, 50, 60, I can't remember where that number was. That's a big step, because it's maybe one of the hardest steps in scaling, because you get just big enough that you can't touch everybody. So you need to start hiring managers or growing managers from within would be my suggestion, right? That's been our greatest success, is identifying great people within your 20. Bring in only when you have to. But as you start, it's a really challenging chapter, because you're not quite big enough to afford expensive, experienced people, right? So you have to manage your expectations. You're going to be putting in a lot of hours, and it's a really exciting time for a business to grow from 15 to 20 to 50. It's an incredible adventure, but you have to really manage your expectations. So the real advice, maybe something that will help, identify your strengths. What do you guys at the top of this organization do best, and how many hats can you handle to keep momentum if you're going to take that next step? And maybe you're putting in one incredible person at your weakest point, and that hopefully at that size can wear 3 hats, right? So you aren't going to look for a key person that can wear only 1 hat at that size. You probably want someone that's willing to wear 3 or 4, but that's brilliant. And then you have your strengths, and naturally I think you'll scale. So does that help a little bit, hopefully?
And Robert said something that was really important. I was thinking back when I have been in my career between deals, after we sold Riva, before we bought Chris Craft, I looked at a lot of companies, like literally a lot. And I saw small companies, And in a small company, I would think, okay, if I bought it, I get one guy or one gal. It's being driven by one guy or person. At sort of 30 million in sales, maybe I get two. And when I say two, I mean just people that aren't going to run off the field without a win, or that want a jersey and want to do something, that want more, that got something to prove. You get to 100 million, you get 5 or 6 of those people. So one thing you really are going to need to scale your company, you got 1 or 2 people that are making that enterprise go. You're going to need to find a third. Maybe they're on your team now. Maybe you need to go hire them and find that person that's capable of addressing that weak point. And when you have that person, you can scale to the next level. You're not going to do it without the people, and it's an investment, because those people have options. They cost money. Don't be afraid to invest, even if it means you hurt the profitability of the company in the short term. You create a platform that you can grow on in the long term.
You've got to invest in talent. Yeah. And
by
be
the way,
very honest, as you guys are self-reflecting, I think you got to be really honest about what your actual strengths are. Like the people that are there, you're a key person. Be really honest about what your strengths are, and then what are the pieces of this puzzle that I'm missing to go to that next level? Because that, I think that self-evaluation is really important.
And you'll create something that's incredibly valuable if you can take it one notch up. So a small company with 10 million in sales, it sells for 3 or 4 times cash flow. You get that company to 30, 40, 50 million in cash flow, it sells for 10 times cash flow. And the reason for that is sustainable. It's got a team. It's got 5 or 6 people at the top that really make it go. And there's demand for those. There's a lot of buyers, and they sell for a lot of money. They're extremely valuable. So you can change dramatically the value of your company by just getting the EBITDA up, by getting it bigger. And in order to get the EBITDA up, that's earnings before interest, depreciation and tax, cash flow for the company. Getting that number up requires people, it requires investment, but when you do, you will have, by an order of magnitude, changed the valuation of the enterprise.
Well, listen, our time has gone very fast. At least it has for me. I hope it has for you. I've enjoyed and learned so much. I hope you have as well. Please join me in thanking John and Robert and Steve. Nice work. Nice work. Thanks, Tom.
Good. Thanks, Tom.
And you got a lot of great advice here today. Take it and use it. And enjoy the rest of the show. Thank you.
Thank you.